Okay, I think we're all set. So, hi everyone. You all know me, Jay, the neighborhood activator. So, thank you for joining us this week leading up to our monthly board meeting, neighborhood meeting over at Station 5. I have Christina Anderson, who is our city planner for the city of Kalamazoo. And then I'm not sure if all of you were at the presentation that was held at Station 5 that Matt organized with Katie from Building Blocks to present on what Building Blocks do, but we have Katie, who is the executive director of Building Blocks, here with us. And we thought it would be great to just go over upcoming projects that are available to the Douglas neighborhood to pursue in the spring with Building Blocks and funded by the city and K College. And if you had any questions, because I know we've discussed this the last few meetings and wanted to just clarify any questions that were had or go through any of the details for the project that you want.
So, hi everybody, I am Christina Anderson, and I'm not sure I've met George, Lindsay, or Maria, so it's really nice to meet you. I have met Cordelia before, and I know Matt. So what as Jay said, I think many of you know some details about this opportunity. Kind of wanted to give a little more information and then answer any questions that you have. The city and K College have been trying to find ways that we can partner, particularly to get students out in neighborhoods, to strengthen the college's relationship with its adjacent neighborhoods, and had this opportunity that kind of came together for some extra capacity for Jay. And potentially for Building Blocks to do work in the Douglas neighborhood, part of the neighborhood plan work that you guys have already started to talk about, community organizing to build your organization and strengthen the roots throughout the whole neighborhood, and then opportunity for Building Blocks to work in Douglas. I think for the first time, maybe not the first time ever, but certainly in a long time. So kind of what that could look like is the city has requested funding from the Foundation for Excellence to have to give Building Blocks the opportunity to do 1 or 2 sites, hopefully 2 sites in Douglas next year. And I know that some of you had the opportunity to hear Katie's great presentation on Building Blocks and how it works. And, you know, if everything aligns, you know, you would be working directly with Katie to go through the Building Blocks process, pick your sites, you know, figure out your resident organizers, all the things that Katie and Building Blocks can help you do. You know, it would just be that the funding would be coming from the city for these opportunities. The part that where K College comes in is Laura Lamb. I don't know if any of you guys know Laura Lamb. She is the, yep, I see some thumbs up. Laura and I are going to be co-teaching a class at Kalamazoo College this winter on community organizing and cities. And hopefully we'll be able to recruit students from this course to be an intern for Jay, to kind of give her extra capacity for doing neighborhood events this spring and into the summer, as well as potentially working for Building Blocks to do, you know, to 1 or 2 on a site to give capacity, depending on how that works out on Katie's end. And so, you know, K College is providing funds to for the course to get students ready for that work. The course itself will have some community members who come in and speak to us, and we want to make sure that we're that we're compensating them for coming into the class, so that, you know, K College has some funds to pay community members to come in and speak. And so those are kind of the 2 pieces, right? It's a capacity building opportunity, particularly for the city and Jay, and organizing events. And of course, getting Building Blocks the opportunity to work in a neighborhood. Katie, has there ever historically been a Douglas site, or maybe it's been a long time? I don't know the answer to that.
If it has been if there was a site, it was quite some time ago. I believe when I presented, someone had pictures from Blakesley, had some students working. So we have some photograph evidence that Building Blocks was in Douglas at one point, but it's been quite some time.
Great.
And you know, from our understanding that this will follow the same process that other Building Block sites do. So application would be submitted in December for Building Blocks to review and start, you know, preparing for those sites. And so Douglas Neighborhood Association would be the group that would prepare that application and submit to Building Blocks. And you guys would select the sites, and then, you know, currently some of the other work separate but is relevant to this is us doing the neighborhood outreach survey and doing some events before that, so you guys can connect with even more neighbors in the Douglas neighborhood. So that might even help you further you know, look at the streets within the neighborhood and help you identify those streets you want to apply for in December.
George, I saw you raising your
Yeah,
hand.
I think you're right about the Blakesley. Long time ago, there was a professor at K by the name of Kim Cummings.
We
And
are
he
well
was
acquainted
big-
with Kim.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, he was big in Building Blocks. And he had a connection to the Quaker meeting as well. So I'm pretty sure there was a project, but it was a long time ago now.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that at the board meeting. Kim is the founder of Building Blocks, and he is still an active board member and community organizer. So he is still very energized and still working very hard on behalf of Building Blocks.
So we're here, so we wanted to kind of lay that out for you. Obviously, you know, ultimately you all decide, you know, how you want to do your neighborhood organizing with Jay as neighborhood activator. You all decide how you want to go forward with Building Blocks. And, you know, Katie has already talked to many of you about the application process and timeline and what it looks like. We wanted to kind of pause here, give you this information, answer any questions that you have, you know, as you start to think about this work. And so we can kind of help to, you know, also be thinking about things and preparing. And Katie, please, if there's something you want to talk about, Building Blocks.
Yeah,
All
happy to
yours.
clarify, and just like apologies, we are doing ring camera support sessions at our office, a task that we've taken on behalf of the city, and there is an urgent need to get these ring cameras, and so we are trying to get them installed as fast as possible. And Ring is a very complicated company to work with, it turns out, so there's lots of technology needs, so I apologize for being a little distracted. Sure, I originally received information from residents in Douglas that they were interested in getting Building Blocks on their sites. I then received information from Christina saying that they were interested in this partnership. It seemed like a good time for me to come to the Douglas board and present, and I did a little PowerPoint. I really appreciated that time in the board meeting. I felt a lot of energy from the board, a lot of interest in selecting sites and in submitting an application for that. I then received a little bit of confusion and information that that the board would not be submitting the applications because they thought that this was going to be something that was selected by the city. And so I think we were just having this meeting to really just clarify everything, that we are still very interested in working with you on those applications. We only want to be in your neighborhood if you want us in your neighborhood. We will not force ourselves in any neighborhood. That is not our model or our philosophy ever. And so I hope that I get to work with you and that you consider applying for Building Blocks and consider this opportunity that is kind of a trifecta between the college and the city and Building Blocks. I think it could be a really cool thing. If you continue to kind of maintain that decision that you're not interested in applying for Building Blocks, our only other hope in getting into the Douglas neighborhood into the spring is that other residents would apply on behalf of their block. That's the only way that we are ever on blocks. And so I just wanted to clarify that. And I think the urgency by having this meeting is that we hope you do. We want to be there and we want to work with you. And we want you to lead the effort in helping us select the sites so that we can start with 2 and do 2 more or 3 more in 2024 and 2025. And y'all can start being part of our block action groups where we stay on, maintain an ongoing commitment. And we want to get solar lights all over your neighborhood if you want them, because that's what we're seeing in other neighborhoods. So we're excited. We think this is a great step into the neighborhood. But again, like, I only want to keep pushing on this if it's something that you all will think is a value add to your neighborhood, because you are the leaders and the decision makers of your neighborhood.
Right. So if I can jump in here for a minute. Also, I apologize, Katie, I did not get to meet you at the last meeting. I think I was in Spain at the time, but I haven't been at a few of the meetings. Yeah, it's a tough month. I think there was just some confusion. And again, we, have been a few years of building up, coming back down, building up, coming back down of kind of who would be involved in what the messages that were sent. So I think it's clear there is not an application that has been submitted yet. And if an application is done, it would be done by our board. I'm looking at your site right now, and it doesn't look like there's deadlines per se to this. Is there like a deadline of application that we should be looking at?
Yep, the deadline is December 1st, but like
Okay.
I said to the board, we can be flexible on that if you need more time, but we know you're interested. The December 1st is for us to start making our budget for the following year, but we know that the
Okay.
city is potentially they are going to commit funding to this if you all decide to do this. Yeah, so December 1st is the deadline, but there have been other neighborhoods where we have had to just do more community engagement and get more into January and February before we selected sites, and we will be flexible and responsive to that to set you up for success. It's not like if we don't get it by December 1st, we're going to be like, no.
Right. So other questions, participation of at least 8 households. Is that 8 household altogether or 8 households in the entire project? Like
So
right
it's-
now we're very pieced together and spread apart. So if it's like
Right.
8 households in one block, we don't know 8 people, 8 households in
Right.
one block.
And Lindsay, I would be happy to send you the PowerPoint that I did, because I
Thank you.
probably
Yes.
think we need
That-
some more updates on our website, because we've actually kind of made some changes since
Okay.
some of those updates are. But what I can tell you is that what we are interested in is doing potentially two sites, 2 blocks. And I think the streets that have been named the most is Blakesley and Alamo. Doesn't have to be them, but those have been 2 streets that have been on my radar. And basically, the ultimate goal is 8 houses, but we have created a funding, so 8 houses would receive a block funding of $4,500. If you have a little bit of less houses, you have a little bit of less funding. If you have a little bit more houses, you have a little bit more funding. And that's us just trying to be more equitable, because we have some streets that'll get like 15 houses, and then we have some that'll get 5, and them having the same block funding was really unequitable, particularly what we're noticing in certain neighborhoods. We're just recruiting so much better. So we don't want to make their budget such a strain. So 8 is kind of the traditional building blocks goal. But again, we just accommodate, you just get less funding if you don't get to 8. And that has worked well.
Okay. Yes, the PowerPoint would be helpful as I'm coming in kind of. And again, I wasn't at the last meeting, so I can't speak to Maria. I don't know if you kind of the opinions of the board as far as moving forward with an application, but my thought would be that now it's clear that there wasn't one already submitted to building blocks by the city, which was just a misunderstanding maybe on my part, I'm not sure, that we would move forward with it. Maria, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think we're all down on participating. And I think a question that I had was, what kind of commitments do we need by the December 1st application from the board and the neighborhood? Do we need those 8 households committed already, or does it give us time to when we hear about the funding, or how does that go?
It's a great question. One new addition to the building blocks application is that we do ask that you get at least 3 residents from the block that you are applying for interested in the block, because our data is showing that when residents are like planning for it, excited about it, like part of the application, it assists with us meeting the mission of recruiting more residents, versus residents just being like, I didn't even know this was coming, and this is kind of just happening at me, and I don't have time, you know. So we are asking for at least 3 resident signatures on the application, basically saying that they're interested in it. So that would be part of it. The idea is that the resident facilitators that are selected, which was something else that we talked about. Sorry, I'll just finish that sentence before I go over there. Is that what was the sentence? Is the resident facilitators would basically be responsible for recruiting the rest of the households as part of the community engagement in the spring. That was the other thing we talked about at the board meeting. So the next steps for the board could be, if whatever you all choose, is to apply for the 2 blocks and also start selecting resident facilitators. That is traditionally what other neighborhood associations do. So that model works well. So you all would also be able to, and I know that Jay has a survey she's putting together, and she's been working on getting some information about building blocks to potentially start seeking folks, Douglas residents that would be interested in those positions. And you all may know someone on some of the blocks. I would just say one thing about that is we have 2 per site, and having someone that like is a people person and attention to details, like kind of the organizer, is a really good skill set. And then a handy person that has a little bit of experience with some projects, like that really is like the best combo. It's not like a must, but like that's a really helpful to really set the site up for success.
Katie, can I ask you a question? If when a neighborhood comes and they have their 3 or however many folks sign on to the original application, have you ever done, I know you do a really in-depth resident leader training with the neighborhood resident leaders who get selected, but for the group is trying to figure out how they start to engage more than their minimum or more than their 3 to kind of build support. Has it ever, I'm not speaking very clearly, have other neighborhoods, do they have tips? Like, East Side, who's so skilled in this, are there resident leaders that can come and be like, oh guys, here's how we did it, kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I'll give you a couple answers. So as soon as we know what the sites are, what we will actually do is send out postcards, because what we find is that having a couple touch points of advertisement around the program is helpful. It also makes it be like, why, like, is this a for real thing? Is this like, what is this like fake? So they will get like an official postcard that says your site's been selected, perhaps by the Douglas Neighborhood Association. You can expect resident facilitators to be outdoor knocking in the month of this. And so they already are getting like that heads up. And then we work with the resident facilitators and we give them like, here's flyer templates that we have found work. A lot of our Neighborhood Leader Academy is really about, it's more of a cohort of shared best practices, because some resident facilitators, once they kind of sip the Kool-Aid, they actually come back every year. And you see that in East Side, we have the same resident facilitators every year. So and after you do it the first year, it just becomes a smoother process. And we provide a returner bonus for facilitators that come back, who were successful, that come back that will come back the following year. So we kind of provide a financial incentive, because we do see that it really is a value add to the program. Does that answer, Christina, maybe a little bit of what you're trying to say? Okay.
And if you guys remember, at the beginning when you guys were just first started meeting, you guys were talking about ways to get out in the neighborhood and figure out how to reach people so that you can promote these events and make sure people know that you're out here doing things. So one of the ideas that was brought up was a survey. And so last meeting, it was asked, does the board want to create the survey? Do they need help? Do they have capacity to do that? And so what was decided was there was not capacity to do it. They would love the city to put it together for them, for you guys to review. And then we shared that draft with you all. You'll see it in the section where it asks about what kind of events or opportunities would you be interested in getting more information about. We do include building block sites. So people can select that. And we also include a link to their website. So if people aren't familiar with building blocks or what they do, they can click on that to learn. And then we also provide even additional information around becoming a resident facilitator in the survey. So then you guys, as we discussed last meeting, can have a running list of people that have expressed interest, and that can give you a good start on figuring out where in Douglas and who, might be interested in being a part of your projects in the spring. And that might help you guys figure out which streets you actually want to do based on the interest that you've seen so far when you fill out your application for December.
I have had a couple Douglas residents that have reached out over the last couple of years, and we keep like a resident interest log. Matt Lakel has been my point of contact, so I've been kind of emailing him things. So he has that list. He has the site application. Jay, maybe if I just respond to this email from this with that, with the application, with the PowerPoint, with that list, would that get to everybody?
I think it'll get to everyone.
Okay.
And then also, Lindsay, I don't know if I have access to upload things to the Google Drive, but maybe that might be a good spot for people to access those items too. Or even, in the future, if there's turnover on the board, like we have those files there for people to access.
Yeah. That makes sense. Sorry, I'm just opening the Google Drive right now.
So yeah, I think Katie, if you just send it, so then everybody, we just know, I
Yeah.
don't know if Matt sent it out to the board or not, but we'll have it on
Honestly,
email
I'm
now. And
searching through emails right now, and all I'm finding is a lot of email chains. So I would suggest we start a new one with the new information, because there's a lot of email chains that turned into a lot of different other conversations and things. And so I just worry that it's not going to get read. I say we start a new one specifically just to discuss this.
Yep.
Everything else. And I think, Maria, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but that will be meeting in a week and a half. And that will probably be the next time that we can all speak in person about the plan. I'm curious, and again, if this was in the PowerPoint or you talked about this last month, let me know. Just the identification of the sites. Was there a reasoning behind Blakesley and Alamo? How do you identify sites? Are there building blocks consultants or AKA you or anybody that comes into a neighborhood and says like, oh, this could be one, this could be, you know what I mean? Because I can think of a lot of things, but I just, I don't know what big of a wand I get, Yeah.
We have a little bit of guidance on our site application around like a block that has this many homeowners, or if it's a high rental block, it's probably worth having a lot, like having multiple blocks on a site, so we put a little bit of like guidance around that. We don't do any kind of like consulting beyond like, where you should go. Generally, the neighborhood associations kind of have an idea.
Okay.
But the other thing is that in a lot of the neighborhoods, our neighborhood associations don't apply for building blocks. Residents apply themselves. And so that option is still there.
Okay.
So I would say Blakesley and Alamo, because we've received resident interest from them. We've just gotten calls to say, hey, how can I get building blocks on my site? So that's why those have been on our radar, and that seemed to be consistent with what the board was thinking when I last meeting that I was there.
Katie, are there characteristics that make certain blocks more likely to be successful than other than people? I mean, just the people themselves?
Yeah, I think like we find that our program is most effective when we have high homeowner populations. It doesn't mean that like renters are more than welcome to participate. We do need to get permission from landlords, so it's like an extra step, but most landlords are fine with getting improvements on their properties.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's its own thing too to think about. But so we do find that the neighborhoods that have high homeowner ownership is our neighborhoods where the program is more successful.
Does it matter if the block should it have residential on both sides? Or, you know, if one side is, I don't know, commercial and the other side is residential, does that matter? Does it need to be like a complete block, or is that not important?
No, I mean, and it might be a couple, like, we might just kind of have to feel out Douglas a little bit, you know, like, that's like the thing, like in the north side, our recruitment is so high that we actually can go on smaller sections of blocks. We would never do that in the Vine. We need big sites in the Vine for us to get lots of participants, you know, so but that just kind of came from experience. So, I mean, I would say, like, if it's areas where a lot of students live, that's very hard because that is very temporary housing. And so we're not necessarily going to get a lot of students to like put in the time for the program. So, I mean, I would say, like, looking at where there's a lot of home ownership, where there's leaders, like, where are there residents that like really care about enhancing their neighborhoods? They're coming to your board meetings, they're filling out your surveys, they're making calls, you know, like, I think that's great. We rely heavily on like this program working because residents want to take the initiative, and they want this, they want their neighborhood to enhance, they want the streets to get those projects and those beautification projects. It's all exterior home improvement and beautification projects. I wanted to clarify too, Lindsay, since I know you probably didn't hear that, so.
Yeah, I knew that point. I was curious though, if you've had any experiences, and this is just thinking of the neighborhood, where they identify like problem areas, you know, and that maybe those problem areas though involves bringing in the landlord or the owner of that home to just agree to have it done. Or if you find that those are unsuccessful because the actual landlord or homeowner, you know, we have slumlords in our neighborhood. We definitely have areas that are taken care of a lot better than others. And so I was just wondering, as we identify those, do you find that people tend to gravitate more towards what they identify as the problem areas, or just more on people who are interested in being involved at their site?
Yeah, I don't know. I think that like
Okay.
a lot of our sites are kind of like a combination of both. Like, you have
Yeah,
homeowners that are really invested in taking care of their homes, but they might be living next door to a home that isn't well taken care of. And
right.
so
That's what I'm
idea-
thinking. I'm thinking
Yeah.
of that type of scenario.
Yeah, you know, so I think that that's really helpful, you know. Yeah, like, and the needs is not necessarily a bad thing, because sometimes like residents are like, I really need this porch fixed. It's a safety hazard for me. So I'll go to whatever meeting to make this happen, even if I'm not
Right.
exactly clear what the mission is here. You know, it gets people to the door. So I guess it's, I've seen it be successful in both ways. I find that actually where we are least successful is residents that are like, I don't need that, give it to someone else, I don't need to participate. And that's where we actually run into problems, where people are kind of like, I don't want to participate because I want someone else to get that. But the problem with that is that they're not going to get it unless everyone, you know, like, we got to, like, the purpose is to come together and participate. And those that are in that type of situation where they don't necessarily want or need projects can still participate. Like, you don't have to get a project done on your house to participate, but you do have to be part of that group and assist on those work days. And so that's kind of a big misdemeanor, or not misunderstanding as well, is that like, you have to need a project done in order to be part of this.
Okay.
I would say this is our first time in Douglas. I would go with the sites that you feel like we have enough residents that are really motivated here, that like like that have that little fire in their belly. Like, that's, I mean, I would start there. And then, because the thing is, once those building block signs go up, people are going to start asking more questions, and it's like this ripple effect. That's what we're seeing in other neighborhoods. We just had to start like with a core, you know, site, and maybe one site is super successful, and then another site we learn a million things from. But then we know, and we come back to the drawing board a year from now, and say, hey, what worked, what didn't work, and what's our best next step here.
And with the pumpkin painting event that you guys have planned for this month, you could also have information available there for families. So you can even talk with them in person about the opportunity, have a sign-up sheet. And then I think if you get any results from the survey that, specifically indicates interest around being a resident facilitator or just interest in the building block project sites, you guys have that to go off of, and you'll have all of that captured well before the December 1st deadline for that to help you think about.
Because the survey is coming out when? You still working on that?
So, well, we heard feedback maybe from 1 or 2 people, so it would be great to hear from the whole board. And then what we discussed last board meeting to not delay this, right, is to hear feedback prior to the board meeting and then have that final version ready to share at the board meeting for you guys to let us know if it's good to go to launch. If you guys think it's good to go to launch now, we can certainly launch it before, but just wanted to give you guys an opportunity for you to review your survey and let us know if it works for you.
Yeah.
Send
I'm
out.
gonna go with silence means consent, so.
All right, George.
And I would not get hyped up on the December 1st deadline. We always pick our north side sites after that deadline, and they
Okay.
are the highest recruited sites that we have. So what I need to know from the board is, are y'all interested or are you not? Because then if you're interested, but you need more time to figure out sites and figure stuff out, that's cool. We're here. But what I want to know is if you're like, we are not interested, then that helps me know what our next steps need to be around what we do with this opportunity. But I hope you're interested and think of this opportunity.
There are 3 board members sitting here. Yes, we're interested.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes,
All right. So then don't
Right.
worry about December 1st. You all
Yeah.
just get back to
we
me
are
when you're ready.
interested, yeah.
Awesome.
Maria,
I
I just
think-
want to confirm, we couldn't see you or hear you. You're our third yay. Oh, that's okay.
I will say, I think, at the last meeting when it was brought up, I saw everybody's faces and they all seemed very excited. Cordelia was a really big fan. I'm sad she wasn't able to join us on the call, but I mean, she was really excited to see the work be done. So
Yes, she is. So,
Thank
yeah,
you, George, yeah.
we're in, we're in.
And it's cool to have students. We've had some great success with students on sites. It's going to help us get more projects done. If y'all want gravel projects done, those are great for students because they are young and they've got young backs. And as we are working with resident facilitators, those are the kinds of things we'll talk about. Installing doors, not a great community project. You need one person who knows what they're doing. Graveling driveways, the more people, the better. So those are the kinds of things that we'll be talking about with the group, with the facilitators as they're working to create a budget and create a project plan for that specific blocker site.
Katie,
Awesome.
with the presentation you shared, does that include visuals of some of the projects that could be done? Because I think, like the solar lights was really interesting. Was happy to volunteer on the north side,
Thank you.
over the weekend with that project. But I'm just thinking to help them kind of figure out what the actual project might look like. Did it include those examples?
I can go back and check. I can definitely include examples. My vision for building blocks, we've done this with lighting and safety because we know that's a big priority, is having like one-pagers that have projects that are just like, here's the item number, here's the cost, here's all the supplies that you need. And so I don't have that, but I have that for solar lights. I have that for rings. I have that for spotlight cameras, some of the things that we know are high demands on sites. But I would love to get to a place with building blocks where we have even more of that we're just almost providing you a booklet. And it's like, 3 of this and 4 of that. And the rest of our budget, we want to beautify with flowers or something like that to make it a little bit easier. But that's something we're working towards at Building Blocks. But we have a great relationship with Lowe's. We've got Carlos is our dude. They provide us a 25% discount on all of our purchases, tax exempt, and he's really good to work with. He's really part of this mission, and so that's a perk. You don't have to buy your supplies there, but that helps you be able to get more projects done. But that's all, we go through all of that with the facilitators. The veteran facilitators will be talking about projects that went really well on their streets, and we'll be talking about that as well. I can also, I think what I did share in that presentation was our 2021 accomplishments, which is a
That'd be
really
great.
nice graphic that shows exactly all the different projects we did in 2021. My goal is to have something like that by the end of the month for 2022 as well, but I can definitely give you 2021, and it's real readable too. It's not like a chapter book or anything.
Okay. Katie, I'm gonna shift subjects for a minute and then actually, I'm sorry, you guys, I have to take off. We had gotten the Ring application since you brought that up and you're involved. But I was never able to put it on any of our like social media sites or anything, which you might be like right now with everything, please don't put it on your social media sites. But if you wanted that, is there like a link or some way? to link
Sorry, one more time.
Applying for the Ring site, something,
Yeah.
is there a link or something you could send me that I can put on our social media sites? Because right now all I
So-
have is the application.
Yep, all we had is the application.
Okay.
And we are, I mean, I don't even know how many we'll have after I get off of this call, but we were sitting at 175 out of our 200 app rings that we
Okay.
have.
All
So
right.
we are likely going to close
be
the
done.
application
No problem.
for the year on Monday.
Then I won't worry
but-
about it.
Residents can totally put that in their budget. And it's one of the reasons that we even took this on, was because this was such a hot desired project. And so it was really great to go back to building block sites and be like, you don't have to make this a building blocks project, because we actually have an alternative like funding source to be able to get you a ring, thanks to the city. So that might be something that we do next year, depending on how we reflect on this experience this year.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any other questions for us? Great. I think
Exciting.
I'm going to be at the next meeting with Zach Dumont, because Jay will be out of town. So if other questions come up or if the board members have questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Yeah, and I owe you an email. So with all of this information, probably not tonight, but I will get it to you very, very soon. Feel free to reach out with questions. You know, we want to work together. We want to be collaborative, and we will learn Douglas and learn what this Building Blocks Douglas relationship looks like, and hopefully it can be a long-term sustainable partnership.
Great.
Great. Thank you.
Nice to meet you all. Have a good
Yes,
evening.
you as well.
Thank
Say
you
hi
all.
to Laura for me.
I will, George.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll say hi to Kim for you too, George.
Yeah, oh, good, good.
Bye-bye.